Now, stewardship is something in the Bible. All those key concepts that we were just talking about, love, prayer, grace, they are all mentioned in the Bible a lot. All right, but stewardship, the truth about money in the Bible. All right, I need to uncover my notes here. All right, Jesus spoke about money in 16 out of the 38 parables that he was speaking in. All right, Jesus mentions money 1 out of about every 10 verses in the Bible, and the Bible devotes 247 verses on faith, 310 verses on love, 310 verses on love, 500 verses on prayer, but over 800 verses on money and possessions. Now we're going to be talking a little bit about why the Bible actually brings up money and possessions so often here in about a slide or two. But if the Bible is talking so much about the blessings that God wants us to have. See, the issue is that concerns God is not our time, it's not our talent, it's not even our money. The issue is simply, in whom do I trust? That's it. In whom do we trust? Do we trust in money? Do we trust in ourselves? Or do we trust in God? All right, make sure I'm on the right slide here. All right, to become a real servant, we have to settle the issue of money in our lives. God uses our finances to teach us to trust Him. And for many of us, this is the greatest test of all. And that reason is because money has the greatest potential to replace God. That is why God talks so much about money in the Bible. It's the same principle as a football team, or a baseball team, or any other competitive sports team. We spend time practicing our own skills, but when it comes time for the big game, the coaches send out scouts. They study their opponent's moves, and then they teach how to counter them. This is what God is doing in the Bible. He knows everything that our enemy is going to do, and He is trying to teach us how to overcome the opposition that is going to be coming to us. All right. There we go. When Jesus is your master, money serves you. But when money is a master, you become its slave. All right. Wealth is not a sin, but failing to use it for God's glory is. All right. So now we're going to turn to Luke, chapter 16, verse 11. If you beat me to it, you get a high five. All right. Chapter 16, verse 11. No, I can't find it. All right. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? All right, how we manage our money, our worldly wealth, determines how much God can trust us with spiritual things, or the true blessings that He wants us to have. All right, is the way I manage money, this is a question, it has one of those big curly marks at the end of the sentence. All right, is the way that I manage money preventing God from doing more in my life? All right, just something to think about. All right, the next thing to think about is that the work of the church simply cannot happen without money.
Amen.
All right, thank you, Esther. It looks like I'm building up a little fan base here. All right, most Christians' attitude towards money has left them unable to participate in effective ministry. All right, we have to get over the attitude that money is bad. So I want you to repeat with me, money is not bad.
Money is not bad.
Money is not good.
Money is not good.
All right, if you love money, you have the wrong attitude towards it. But if you employ money, so that way you can do all of the things that God has called you to do, then you are starting to have the right attitude towards it. Your attitude really determines your altitude. All right, the average person claims that money doesn't matter much to them, yet they work very hard for it. True or false? True. All right, they devote tremendous effort to getting it and tremendous worry to not having enough of it. True.
Not me.
All right, in that case, money can actually become a god for those who don't have it. If you do not have if you do not do the right things with the resources that God has given you. Many times we start thinking more about what we don't have and what we need, rather than focusing on God, who is the one that we should be focusing on most of the time. Correct? Yeah. See, the teacher coming out at me, just kind of talking to you all. And believe it or not, you're actually responding very similar to how my kids do, too. And they stare at me with blank faces, and some of you are making faces at me. That's cool, too. All right, so, yeah, completely lost my place there. Anyway, let's move on. Luke 4:18. All right, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because He has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom to the prisoners, recovery of the sight of the blind, and to set the oppressed free. Whenever God is saying something in the Bible, do you think that He wastes any words? Mm-mm. He never wastes any words. Does everyone always get what He is saying spiritually? No. But He still does not waste words. When He's talking to farmers, He talks about seeds and how they grow and the kind of soil that they're planted in. So that way, if they get the spiritual message, they understand it. But if they don't get the spiritual message, they still get some good advice. This is the same thing that God talks about here. Whether we are actually able to recover the sight for the blind, we can help people know what they are supposed to do, to figuratively remove their blindfolds and to set the oppressed free. Because maybe some of us are programmed for poverty. All right, when the church is poor, it is impossible to finance the programs that the church needs to have to continue its ministry properly. I know, I'm doing one of those real fun sermons that everyone likes to listen to, right? Yeah, my fan base might disappear after this. All right, the money that makes the church run doesn't actually fall out of the sky. God can make that happen if He wanted to, but for the most part, it comes from the people in the church. And if none of them have any money, or if they're broke, or have the wrong attitudes towards money, the church is not going to be able to do much. Our church is able to do a lot with a little, but the more that we have, the more that we can actually do for the community around us and make sure that we're reaching the people that we need to reach. All right, why is this? It's because we have an enemy. Who knows who he is? Yeah, as much as we'd like to believe it, it's not Obama. All right, the devil. What he does is deceive. He can lie to you, but if you believe that lie, that is what actually opens the door for him to come into your life to steal and destroy. That happens in every aspect of our life. I know we're talking about money and possessions and things like that today and what the Bible says about it. Because last time I checked, our checks don't actually have instructions on the back of them telling us what to do with it when we actually get them, right? The Bible has a lot of instruction on what we are supposed to do with our money, and I'm just going to be touching on a little bit of it today. Just in normal Pastor Mike fashion, those 800 verses that we were talking about, I'm only going to touch on each of them about 5 minutes. Don't worry, I'll get you to work on time tomorrow. Alright, something that we need to watch out for is that the devil comes quoting Scripture. He came to Jesus with religion. He came to Jesus with religion. The person who you should make sure that you know what you're talking about when it comes to your faith, that is how the devil attempted to seduce him. So we need to make sure that we are taking the Scriptures and the verses that we are reading, making sure that we understand them. Because Jesus had more than just a knowledge of the Word. He had an understanding of it, and He knew when somebody was misusing it. Alright, shallow religion has given us some very unfruitful and destructive attitudes in many areas. And this happens most often with misquoted Bible verses on money. So the next thing we're going to be talking about are some of these misquoted Bible verses. See, I'm getting ahead of my own PowerPoint here. Alright, so the first one we're going to be talking about is Matthew 6:24. Okay, Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be destroyed by one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And that sounds pretty harsh towards money, right? How about those people that spend a lot of time trying to acquire it? Doesn't sound real good for them either, does it? When Jesus says that you cannot serve two masters, some people actually think that that means that any effort to gather wealth was somehow serving money. If we stay poor, then we couldn't possibly be serving money since we have so little of it. You can see how that would almost make sense, right? But the devil thrives on half-truths. See, if we go a little bit farther into that, in spite of this belief, those same people that say if we don't have money, then we aren't slaves to it, we aren't dependent on it, they spend so much time on and effort onto that paycheck. At the end of the week, their whole life is scheduled around the need to work for it. They need to pay bills. They have to make sure they have enough to eat. They serve that check because it controls their time, it controls their thoughts, and it controls what they are able to do. If you are working 3 full-time jobs, you sleep 2 hours a day, and you only wake up, you wake up when it's dark, you go home when it's dark, you eat, and you think about, how much money I need to get to be able to finish what I'm doing. Do you have any time to serve God? No. So are we serving God when we don't have money, or are we serving money when we don't have money? If that's all we are focused on. Alright, proper stewardship has money serve you without controlling every minute of your schedule. That is what I mean when I am speaking to you today about wealth, is having enough money that you don't need to worry about what's going on the outside. I know the Bible also says that not a sparrow falls to the ground that God does not know about it, and how much more important are we. That means God will provide for us when we are struggling. But if we want to be able to serve God, we need to make sure that with the resources that He gives us, we are doing the right thing so we can have the time and the resources to be able to serve Him. Does it make sense? All right. On the right page, yes I am. Going on to another misquoted Bible verse, Proverbs 8:19. See if anyone can beat me to that. I hear pages turning. You guys are quick. All right, I'm going to combine a couple here. All right, first, Proverbs 8:19. All right, my fruit is better than fine gold. What I yield surpasses choice silver. Are the fruits of God spiritual, or are they physical?
Spiritual.
They're spiritual. And He says that His gifts are even better than fine gold. All right, many people use this to say that God is not interested in money, only in spiritual blessings. But if we take a look at the next verse, verse 21, bestowing wealth on those who love me and making their treasuries full. Now, does that make sense that God would say that money is not worth anything, and then turn around and say that if you do what I say, I will make your treasuries full? What God is saying is that His spiritual blessings are better than money, but you also need money to be able to function. Alright, God says that those who experience His fruit, which is better than gold, will also inherit wealth. This is what God's plan was before the earth even existed. Alright, one of the things that I found very interesting, and I'm going to have us flip through here real quick to Luke 9, chapter 13. There are a lot of people out there who think that we need to be like Jesus, who was basically a pauper going around through life, living by eating at other people's houses and doing all sorts of things. But if we flip over to Luke 9, I have something that was very interesting. Luke 9, verse 13. This is when we are talking about Jesus and the feeding of the 5,000. And most of us know that story. Alright, Jesus was out with his boys out in the country, just having a good time, hanging out. And then all of a sudden, 5,000 people showed up, and they were all hungry and wanted to hear Him. And what did Jesus say? Alright, give them something to eat. And they replied, we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, unless we go out and buy up food for all this crowd. And it talks about how there were about 5,000 men there. So we can talk about whether it was just 5,000 people, 5,000 men, 5,000 women, or 10,000 altogether, whatever it may have been at that time. But look at the second part of that verse. All right, unless we go and buy food for all this crowd. Did they say, well, we cannot buy food for all this crowd? No, Jesus had money. His disciples had money. They had enough money that 5,000 people showed up at the door and they said, well, we can't feed them with what we have unless we go and buy more. How many of you right now would be able to pay for food for 5,000 people? Jesus had money. He just didn't let it rule his life. He didn't live by money, but he used it when necessary. All right, now I lost my place again. Sorry. Oh, there we are. All right, God created wealth on earth because he wanted his people to have it. How many of you thought before this that wealth came from the devil? Some of us did. Let's think back to Genesis this time. God created a garden for Adam and Eve to live in where they had anything that they wanted. They had no trouble, no sickness, no death, all the food that they wanted, and they could even have a mink run across their back for a massage if they got bored. All right, they had everything that they would ever need. It wasn't until the devil stepped in with a half-truth and deceived Eve that poverty also came into the world, where they were kicked out of the garden and then they had to fend for themselves with very little. All right, wealth does come from God. It's what we do with it that makes us either holy or not. Okay, so our next verse should be Matthew 19, verses 21 through 24. Okay, and Jesus answered, "If you want to be perfect, then go and sell your possessions and give them to the poor." Oh, wow. I skipped ahead a little bit there. All right, yeah. All right, I completely lost myself. There we go. All right, Jesus answered, "If you want to be perfect, go and sell your possessions and give to the poor, and then you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me." And when the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had great wealth. When Jesus said to his disciples, "I tell you the truth, it is harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." All right, the problem with this wasn't that the young man was wealthy. It was because he depended on his wealth rather than God. The money owned him, not the other way around. There's a difference between wealthy and rich. A wealthy person has the resources to be able to take care of anything that would come up, anything that they would need. A rich person, like this man here, is the one who flaunts it, who spends their money on themselves rather than being able to help others. All right, this young man, he depended on his wealth. When he turned around after Jesus said, "Sell your stuff," he looked at his castle, he looked at his red chariot, he looked at his horse named Ferrari. All right, and he said, "I really like my stuff. I want to go to heaven, but I really like my stuff. I'm going to have to go with the stuff, sorry." And Jesus let him walk away with that. Jesus was not saying that rich people could not enter the kingdom of heaven. He was explaining that those who are rich might need to be blindfolded. They might need to be pulled away from their wealth, so that way they can't see their circumstances. If they look at their wealth and they tend to depend on it rather than God. Again, we're going back to your attitude towards money is what demonstrates good stewardship. All right, some people can't become wealthy without actually selling their soul. In fact, there are more people who sell their souls for money, working at jobs that both steal their time and kill their spirit, and they never become wealthy. Have you ever thought about that? That there are people out there selling their souls for money and that they're still struggling from day to day, from paycheck to paycheck, just because they aren't following some very simple principles. And this book here, I have paper sticking out of it all over the place to mark where I'm supposed to be so I can cheat at my sword drills. this book actually tells us what we need to know to be able to do the things that God wants us to do. We'll get into that a little bit more coming up here, but the fact is money is not good and it's not evil. It's what we do with the money that reflects back on us. If we are good or evil or generous or greedy or wise or foolish or masters or slaves to money. All right, y'all still with me? Yep. All right, no one's walked out yet. That's a good sign. All right, true wisdom, Proverbs 3:13 through 18. All right, let's flip to that. I like Proverbs. Anyone else like Proverbs? Yeah, it's a good time. You know, anytime that you can listen to the wisdom of somebody who you know is wise, like most of us here come and listen to Bob. All right, so as much as we think of Bob as our local Solomon, the actual Solomon was a wise man, so I think I want to listen to what he has to say. All right, so 13 through 18. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies, nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and her left hand is riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant, and her paths are of peace. She is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Those who lay hold of her will be blessed. All right, so what we were talking about is possessing wisdom will give you long life, riches, and honor. Solomon gained wisdom because he prayed for it. He asked God for wisdom. He came riches and honor came with it, and he became the wealthiest man in the world because he sold his soul for it? No, because he asked for wisdom and was able to use it to be able to build up something for God's kingdom. The temple of God, God's first home, was the temple of Solomon. Would he have been able to do that if he did not have the wisdom to be able to build up a vast amount of wealth, to be able to provide something for God? I don't think so. Let's move on to Deuteronomy 8:18. It's becoming easier now. I have less and less paper sticking out. You soon you guys are going to be able to beat me. Alright, but remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives the ability to produce wealth and confirms his covenant, which he swore to your forefathers as it is today. So if God promised that he would allow people the ability to earn income, to earn wealth, if he promised that way back when, does that mean his promise no longer applies? No. And notice he didn't say, I promise to give you wealth. There are many people out there who say, oh, the Bible promises that God will make you wealthy. No. The Bible promises that he will give you the ability to earn wealth. Does that mean that you get to say, okay, God, I am ready here and I want to earn my wealth, and then you sit at home and wait for the check to roll in? As much as we would like for that to happen, it doesn't. Another set of Proverbs, one of my favorite ones is, I forget the specific verse, but it says, let not sleep come to your eyes, because that will build you wealth. It means that you need to work hard if you want to get to the point where you have enough wealth to be able to do what God wants you to do with it. And God will bless you if you put that work in. But I am never going to stand up here and say that God is going to give you what you want just because you ask for it and sit around and wait. Sometimes he will, but most of the time he wants you to show that you are willing to earn that blessing. All right, let's go back over to Proverbs. Actually, that'll be good. All right, Proverbs 10:22. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no trouble to it. Or Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. All right, this means that he wants us to do the right things. I'm going to be talking, we're going to be reading another verse here in a little bit that talks about making sure that you're storing up things for the future. All right, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. How many of you have ever seen on the news? Because I know a lot of you watch that stuff. You know, CNN, constantly negative news.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where you have a very, very rich man who's always walking in his best dressed suit. His work car is a Lamborghini. And then you see him being drug out of his business in handcuffs because he didn't do something right. Ill-gotten wealth will come back to bite you. But if you work hard and honestly, it says here that the blessing of the Lord brings wealth and he adds no trouble to it. You do the right thing, and God will bless you. If you try to earn wealth, to be a quote-unquote good steward by earning money in any way you can, thinking that the means will justify the ends, God knows it all. He's going to find a way to make sure that he brings you back down to where you belong. So I suggest that even while going through this and thinking about this, that if you are trying to work and build up your wealth, that you do it the right way. All right? Now, is there any more? Yeah. Don't expect God to bless us with a whole lot until we learn how to handle what we have already. I'm going to be talking about this here in a little bit. It's basically along the same lines of comparing money to a gun. In the hands of the right person, a gun can provide, a gun can protect, a gun can do a lot of good in the hands of the right person. But if you put the guns in the hand of a person who doesn't know what they are doing, it can do a lot of harm. So God looks at us the way that we would look at children. How many of you had kids who liked to play with toy guns when they were younger? All right, and if they didn't play with toy guns, they probably ate their graham crackers into the shape of guns and then played that at the kitchen table anyway. All right, God looks at us the same way we would look at our children. All right, if you have a child that is running around with one of those guns that shoot off those little foam arrows, and you see everywhere he's running around, he's shooting people with that gun, are you going to give him a BB gun? No, I didn't think so. What if you have that same child a little bit farther down the road that keeps that gun holstered unless he sees a robber or a bad guy or wants to go out and try to protect somebody with it? Does that child have the right attitude towards that weapon now? Yeah. He wants to do the right thing with it. God works the same way. When it comes to our money, he's going to see if he gives us a little bit, so that way we can't do a lot of harm with it if we don't handle it properly. If we start taking that time and start working responsibly with the money and resources that God gives us, then he may start blessing us with more. All right, we need to learn how to be faithful in small things before we move up to bigger ones. We need to stop worrying about what we don't have and start doing something with what we do have. All right, Jesus, when he was sitting with his disciples in the temple, was sitting and watching all of these very rich people going in and dumping a lot of money into their offering plates. And then he saw this little old widow come in and drop her last coin into the offering plate. And he turned to his disciples and said, I tell you the truth, this woman has given more than all of these. Which person there was the one who was handling the little bit that they had properly? Do you think God blessed her because of what she did? Oh, guaranteed. Those other people who were giving out of their excess, giving so it looked good but not giving until it hurt, God was looking at them and saying, you know what, you're not getting anything more, you're going to be happy with what you have. See, one might have, there we go. See, money is a lot like manure. If you spread it around, it can do a lot of good, but if you pile it up, it stinks. All right, we need to learn how to be givers, even in the little bit that we have. With that, God will start being able to trust us with more. Pass their fruit. says the Lord Almighty. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for yours will be a delightful land, says the Lord Almighty. All right, these two verses come in a couple of parts. One, it says that God will protect us. If we are doing what is right, if we are working towards God, He will protect us. He will provide for us when we are in trouble, and He will make sure that people notice. If you are working to make sure that people notice you, are they ever going to? No. They're going to think of you as being proud and upright and righteous and the holier-than-thou attitude that so many people think we Christians have. But if you will allow God to bless you, people will look up to you regardless. We need to stay humble with what we have. And all because we decide to follow the verse before that, verse 10. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I do not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it. All right. He says to bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. It says many times throughout the Bible that the first tithe, the first 10th part, the first 10% is supposed to be going to God. It says that 39 times in the Bible. It is a practice of prioritizing God in our life and recognizing that He is the source of our income. We like to think that we are the ones that work for the money. But without God's blessing, we are not going to be able to make any money regardless. All right, tithing is less an issue of the wallet and more of an issue of trust. God created everything around us. Just think about how awesome that is. And if He says He will provide for us if we just give Him that 10%, can we trust that He can do that? I think we can. Am I trusting God to meet my needs as I put Him first with my finances? All right, God knows that the most difficult area for us to turn over to Him is our finances. That's why Malachi 3:10 actually says, "Test me in this, if I will not pour open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you a blessing until it overflows." All right, can we trust Him to fulfill this promise? Is there anything that we cannot trust God to do? No, there's nothing that we can't trust God to do. All right, and more importantly, can God trust me to obey Him? That's a tough question. Some more tough questions. Something for you guys to think about as you're sitting there is, number one, do I trust God? Where do I place my faith? Where do I place my confidence? There is a big difference between faith and confidence. Faith is what has not been proven to you yet, but you believe it. Confidence is what you have had proven to you, and you still believe it, and that's where you put your that's why you put your trust in it. And is God truly my source? Does everything I have come from God? We have to think about that. We have to think about these things, really reflect and think. We can also turn the tables, because we can trust God fully and completely. But can God trust me? Have I proven to be a trustworthy person? Or do I say that I trust God and then behind closed doors not do what He asks me to do? Can He give me what He wants to, knowing that I am trustworthy? If we're running around with that little toy gun pointing it at people, is God ever going to give us anything more? Will I become a truly trusting, obedient, and dependent person upon God? That is one of the biggest questions in all of our faith. Is, can God trust me to do what He wants me to do? Alright, so the final passage that I'm going to be running to today is going to be Luke 19, 11 through 27. Alright, while they were listening to this, he went on to tell them a parable because he was near Jerusalem and the people thought that the kingdom of God was going to appear at once. He said, a man of noble birth went to a distant country and gave himself and to have himself appointed king, and then returned. So he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. To put money to work, he said, until I come back. But then his subjects hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, we don't want this man to be our king. He has been made king, however. He has been made king, however, and he returned home and sent his servants who he had given the money to. The first one came and said, Sir, your mina the servants who he had given the money to in order to find out what they had gained. The first came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 10 more. 17. Well done, my good and faithful servant, he answered, replied, because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities. The second came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master said, you take charge of 5 more cities. And then another servant came and said, Sir, here is your mina, and I have kept and laid it away in a piece of cloth. I was afraid of you because you are a hard man. You take what you did not put in, you reap what you did not sow. And his master replied, I will judge you by your own words, you wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in and reaping what I did not sow. So why did you not put your money on deposit so that when it came back I would have at least collected it with interest? Then he said to those standing by, take his mina away from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. Sir, they said, he already has 10. And then he replied, I tell you the truth. Until everyone who has more will be given, and the one who has nothing, even that will be taken away from him. But those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. Now this is the only passage that I can find that says, well done, good and faithful servant. That is our goal as Christians, isn't it? To hear God say at one point in time, well done, my good and faithful servant. And it just happens to be when it's on a passage dealing with money. I mean, it is talking spiritual things too. But the parable points to the fact that Jesus left this earth to become king, and he expects his servants to deal wisely with the material things of this world while he is gone. God is pleased with people who take what he has given them to multiply it. He wants his people to have power over their money because he has called them to do great things with it. Now we do have to talk a little bit about the enemies of good stewardship. I am coming to a close here, so I can tell that some of you are famished and some of you have that glazed over look, so I only have about 2 or 3 more slides here to go over. Stick with me here for a while. But the enemies of stewardship. Number 1, failing to plan. The servants that he said, good, well done, my good and faithful servant. Do you think they made some plans when their master went away? Or do you think they just kind of threw caution to the wind and figured out what they wanted to do as they did it? We have to make plans. We are not going to be able to do well with the resources that God has given us if we don't first figure out what we want to do with it. Just for example, how many of you here have ever gone on vacation? Spent a lot of time planning those vacations, right? Yay. How many of you have taken as much time to sit down and plan what you are going to be doing with the resources that God has provided for you? A lot of us show by our actions that our vacations are more important than what is going to be going on for the rest of our lives financially. Alright, the next one is debt. verses in the Bible, I cannot find one that says debt is a good thing. And yet we have so many people out there today who are drowning in it because they don't know they don't understand good financial concepts like don't spend money that you don't have. It seems like it would be common sense. Failing to protect our God-given resources. I see I have a little bit of a typo there, misarranged those words. But failing to protect our God-given resources doesn't even need to be our money, but one of the greatest resources that God has. All right, I'm just going to go teacher voice now. Okay, one of the greatest resources that God has given us is our families. We need to make sure that we are taking the resources that God has given us to protect them. And through that, we will be able to protect the resources that God has given us, making sure that they last for generations, to be able to make sure that those resources are being used to further God's kingdom rather than trying to make sure that we're driving a nicer car or have a bigger TV. I mean, I would love to have a 70-inch TV sitting over top of my tub, but I have more important things that I can spend that money on. Speaking of which, frivolous spending. Not everyone actually goes into debt to make sure that they have the things that they want. Some people have enough money to be able to buy these things. And I'm not saying that you should not do things that you like to do or not buy anything that you that you want. But I'm saying that if you have extra money, you should not spend every cent of it on something that makes you feel good, and maybe you should start using that to plan for the future and what God might be able to use you in that with. That was a horrible sentence for a teacher to spill out, but you know, I'm a math and science guy, so deal with it. All right, and another is improper savings techniques for vehicles. The one servant in that last parable that we talked about, God called him wicked, a wicked servant, because he did not plan for the future. There are so many people out there today that are shoving their money into coffee cans, putting it under their mattress. Is that money ever going to do anything for the kingdom of heaven there? It's not. We need to make sure we're planning for the future, but we also need to make sure that we're doing something to make sure that God can build on the interest. We need to be investing in ourselves. We need to be investing in people. We need to be investing to make sure that we are storing up for the future. God has given us brains in our head and shoes in our feet, to quote Dr. Seuss. So that way we can think about the right things to do with the resources that he has given us, and then take those resources and actually go out and do something good with them. All right, so I wanted to end this saying, you guys can do this. You can be good stewards. I'll be your cheerleader. All right, the path to financial independence starts with understanding a few basic concepts and implementing them. And this book is full of them. Winning a financial war is a result of winning tiny battles from day to day. And if you put together a simple plan and follow it, you'd be amazed at the progress that you guys can make. So one of the biggest failures of the Christian church today is are not following the premise of faith without works is dead. Now, I'm not trying to make a shameless pitch for what I do outside of this, but if anyone wants some free resources on how to implement these issues, implement these concepts, please let me know and I can get those free resources to you. But if not, this book will explain everything that you need to know if you just open it and look. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope some of you are still conscious. All right, I see a few of you are, so that's good. All right, do we have another song for today? All right, where are we going now?
437.
All right. In the hymnals, page 437.